Hell Cannon is definitely an interesting unit, and even more interesting to see it for the Chaos Dwarfs. I can't remember the last time I saw this, even like in the early access and release of Chaos Dwarfs. People really just weren't ever taking the Hell Cannon. The reason is it has some pretty clear weaknesses as a single entity artillery. With a crew, has the weakness of the main artillery piece getting destroyed, and then the rest of the crew is absolutely useless. Of course, they are unbreakable, not that it really helps, but does have a homing missile that does a decent amount of damage against the Dark Elves. We're going to see how it can do in the hands of the mad flying taco here. Veteran player and definite friend of the channel. Let's see how he does against Galruch's Dark Elves. He's got a Supreme Sorceress, Lord of Shadows, and some Dread Knights, Big Swords, and looks like some Dark Riders already in the vanguard, chasing down some Wolf Raiders with bows. We got one Iron Demon here, and some Fire Glaives, plus some Blunderbusses. Blunderbusses definitely very cost-effective if they can get some good shots off. Fire Glaives, of course, a little bit less cost-effective, but can be decent. We've also got some Bull Centaurs, Grey Weapons, some Scourge Runner Chariots here for some skirmish, and yeah, the rest is, as said, Dread Knights, Bleak Swords. We see some hit of Shades being unleashed here on these Fire Glaives. Their black and gold armor looking very cool. Of course, very vulnerable to magic damage. These elite Chaos Dwarf infantry, they're not Order Dwarfs with their spell resistance. Instead, they have fire resistance, which is basically mostly useless, but they're getting a few shots landing here on these Dread Knights. You can see they're holding their silly little maces aloft in the air. Their shields trying to block some of those shots. Yeah, Wolf Raiders kind of getting the better of the Dark Riders with some support. Will win out pretty decisively there. In the center also, Astrogoth doing a really nice job with his missile support. Little point blank missile there with the Vortex. Flames of Asgore, I believe it's called. Burning Wrath, that's what it is. Flames of Asgore is the big nuke, right? Anyway, yeah, the Hell Cannon right now is staying protected. The main threats to it, usually shooting, right? Because it has such a big unit model with relatively low HP for how big and how many missiles it takes, right? Because it is a big target. When it gets focused by something like a traditional archer unit, it will go down very quickly. So the Scourge Runners are really the biggest threat to it. But they're being used to focus on the Iron Demon, which definitely makes sense, but Supreme Sorceress just kind of lingers for a moment in front of the Blunderbusses. One volley is enough to do some pretty extreme damage. She's going to return the favor. The nasty Pit of Shades there. And Astrogoth with the Iron Demon has routed pretty much the entire line of the Dark Elves. Got one Cold One Knight still standing. The run in here, do some good work in this backline potentially, but still some full health Fire Glaives rather, in a really nice protecting position here. Beautiful rippling volley going off. They stand ready to shoot whatever tries to charge down this Hell Cannon, if anything, but Taco's been doing a really nice job kind of layering his defenses, throwing in these Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders to keep the Dread Knights occupied, keep that Hell Cannon firing on all cylinders. The Scourge Runners also plenty of targets for them to shoot at. They're firing into the front line, doing some nice damage to these Bull Centaurs. Beautiful breath attack landing as well. And the Dread Knights, the Bull Centaurs definitely having a pretty bad time. Both sides with their missile units quite threatening at this point. Looks like the Dark Riders getting chased through the lines here. Dread Knights actually regroup and maybe try and chase back, occupy those Blunderbusses. Yep. So second push here, Murderous Prowess active. A lot of these Dark Elf units getting attack and leadership buffs. A little bit of charge bonus as well. These Blunderbusses going to get ran down from behind. Yeah, Flames of, the Burning Wrath being unleashed once more. I know Taco's a big fan of that one. Can just generate really nice cheap value. Cascading Fire Cloak also for Astrogoth to buff himself up. Time being, looks like another Pit of Shades going to be unleashed. Dealing damage to those Blunderbusses. Still some Fire Glaives left. Not the best line of sight right now, but it looks like the Dread Knights are pretty much down. Scourge Runners staying at the distance, using those bolts to try and finish off the Iron Demon here. See, the bolts are quite accurate. Iron Demon's not the biggest target in the world, but definitely taking some pretty significant shots here. And it should go down. Yep, on the next hit there. Wow. Skull Care. The Hell Cannon here actually accurate enough with that tracking to hit flying targets. Does actually hit that Scream Sorceress. Flying Taco's got a bow Wolf Raider that chased something off the map there. It's in the corner. Unfortunate. Let's see if he notices that. Time being, the Dragon's going to come down, try and charge out whatever's left here. Actually just gets a terror route directly into Bull Centaurs. Maybe can finish off these blunderbusses here. The Wolf Raiders are forced to pull back. And now you can see the shots immediately as they start landing on the Hell Cannon. The HP just drops very quickly. So, yeah, it only takes like a volley or two before the Scourge Runners are able to tear this thing down. It's, yeah, because they had to focus down other targets, and Taco did a good job of presenting other very threatening units. You know, it took them a long time. The Hell Cannon was able to pretty much use up most of its ammunition, and the final value coming in still didn't quite pay for itself. So that's the main reason why you don't see the Hell Cannon. I do think tactically it was nice here to get some overall broad DPS, and to have that, especially the leadership DPS is quite significant. I think it has an actual leadership contact effect. No, forget. Does not. Probably should, to be honest. But anyway, another Pit of Shades there. Being unleashed. The Fire Glaives. Supreme Sorceress of Shadows trying her best to win at this point. Obviously. And it's going to try and see if she can finish these elite infantry left. At this point, it's mostly Astrogoth and the Fire Glaives that are threatening. There's still a little bit of blunderbusses here as well. But the Scourge Runner Chariots have a handful more volleys. As Dragon lands once again, Astrogoth gonna toot his little horn. Love the point blank Burning Wrath as well, just full damage right in the face. And the blunderbusses as well. Scourge Runners in vicinity. The Astrogoth might try and charge them down as they try and charge down some of the melee missile elements rather. Yeah, technically the charge defense, yeah, even though the Fire Glaives don't have much of an anti-large bonus, that charge defense did come into play there just barely, as you saw they were able to actually stop the charge of those Scourge Runners. The Scourge Runners kind of get caught a little bit in melee or forced to pull back. You actually goon that blunderbuss pretty effectively. Green Sorceress with a quick land, a tear route, and now going to pull away once more. Wolf Raider is able to get a few shots, nothing too impactful. Yeah, in fact, mostly missed. That's fine. But now the Scourge Runner Chair is just committing to a all-out melee engagement. Probably smart at the end of the day, but the Dragon's got to be careful. Yeah, a little bit of shades there to finish off the Dread Knights, but also hopefully will kill the Fire Glaives. That means it'll be just the Dragon Chariots versus Astrogoth. Of course, they still got to take these Wolf Raiders out, which should be fairly easy. Terror should do that job just fine. Then it's all about Astrogoth trying to hold out again against these Chariots and the Dragon. And the Chariots obviously won't do much. They're mostly here to just kind of push him around the body block. But actually, the pushing him around in a way is going to act against Dark Elves pretty significantly. You saw the Dragon wasn't really able to get good contact on the charges there. Once it finally is able to get good contact on the charges, Astrogoth's still here, and Taco manages to keep these Wolf Raiders around as well, which is going to give him a support unit when this final engagement actually happens, right? So Galrich maybe should have focused a little bit more with the Scourge Runner Chariots trying to actually kill this Wolf Raider earlier, but yeah, unfortunately the Supreme Sorceress just can't stand the late game against Astrogoth in a melee engagement, gets straight up killed, and that's going to be army losses. So big thanks to Galrich for actually submitting a loss. Not enough people are brave enough to do that. But it's definitely fun to see, and it was a pretty close game at the end of the day. Ultimately, just came down to, like I said, Astrogoth being too much of a Chad. Quite finish off there in the late game for the caster on a Dragon. Still, though, I mean, 3390 on value, 18,000 damage dealt. Hard to argue she did her part. The rest of the build, yeah, the Dread Knights really kind of fell apart. To be honest, the Scourge Runner Chariots also paid for themselves. I mean, I say they fell apart. They did some work, but didn't get enough value to justify their high cost. Astrogoth surprisingly doesn't carry here. Instead, it's the missile units do a nice job of helping to contribute here. Yeah, the train also. It's just kind of a nice combined win for like all phases of the Chaos Dwarf army, which is nice to see. Nice to see some combined arms. Chaos Dawi for the win. Quite an unorthodox build. No real traditional infantry, just all missile units and cavalry and kind of a hit and run tactics. I really like it, to be honest. Very, very unusual and nice to see random hell cannon. You saw there the main weakness of it. The problem is that because it's so slow and static, and against factions without a lot of missile units, it can be rushed down fairly easily, and against factions with a lot of missile units, it can be shot to death fairly easily. So a little bit of an odd situation where it's decent as a surprise pick, but I don't know that it's worth necessarily taking consistently in any matchups. 1200 gold is a lot to pay for something that can be killed quite easily. One thing I think Creative Assembly could do is just buff the HP on the artillery piece itself. That would probably make Hell Cannons a lot more viable and would probably help the Warriors of Chaos and the Chaos Dwarfs, both of which have access to it. But for the time being, it is what it is. Will be a weird niche pick in some matchups and kind of a fun way to catch your opponent off guard, perhaps, but definitely a fun one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.